if a party is fairly elected. But then it changes the system in ways that allow it to centralize its own power. Is that still a democracy? My name's Yuri Lepstein. Welcome to the Sanity Club. So, what is a democracy? Or better yet, what is a liberal democracy? It's a system where the people elect their leaders, and those leaders typically win a majority of the national popular vote, a majority of seats in a parliament, or a majority of, whoa, not now. And while democracy is fundamentally about letting people elect their leaders, elections are a necessary but not sufficient part of a free and open society. I mean, the Soviet Union technically had elections, but you only actually had one option to vote for. And even in the case where you do have two legitimate options, instinctively, we understand that it shouldn't just be majority rule where 51% get to do whatever the hell they want to the 49. The word liberal is so important because it actually limits the word democracy. Liberal democracy offers checks and balances, separation of powers, freedom of press, things that limit the power of the ruling majority by guaranteeing certain rights and freedoms even to those who lost the election. Remember those certain truths that we hold to be self-evident? Meaning, even if a majority wanted to get rid of them, they shouldn't be able to? That's what's keeping democracies like the US from devolving into mob rule. Because not all democratic systems are created equal. Today, we're seeing a bunch of parties and democracies around the world trying to chip away at anything that limits their power. Take Mexico. Their judicial reforms have left their courts vulnerable to manipulation and muzzled their ability to check their other branches of government. Or Poland, whose previous government violated EU's democracy standards by controlling news outlets, turning them into far-right propaganda machines. Or Hungary, whose leader Viktor Orban has said that he wants to establish an illiberal democracy. The ruling parties in each of these countries tried to change the rules of the game in order to cement their own hold on power, while limiting anybody else's ability to push back. Taken individually, none of these changes are catastrophic. But remind me, what's the best way to boil a frog? Now, unfortunately, we're also seeing this play out in America. Republicans have gotten pretty lucky in being able to nominate a bunch of Supreme Court justices. This land is my land. This land is my land. And in response, some Democrats are hoping to institute 18-year term limits on the Supreme Court. And this is actually a pretty creative approach, which over time could lead to a more consistent ideological balance. But the key here is that it would take time. And there are other Democrats who aren't so patient. They're threatening to pack the courts with anywhere from 3 to 6 new Supreme Court justices who would, fundamentally change the ideological balance on the court and probably destroy whatever legitimacy it has left. Republicans, on the other hand, haven't exactly been innocent here either. Here's Lindsey Graham from 2016 trying to justify refusing to bring President Obama's nominee for the Supreme Court to a vote.
I want you to use my words against me. If there's a Republican president in 2016 and a vacancy occurs in the last year of the first term, you can say, Lindsey Graham said, let's let the next president, whoever it might be, make that nomination, and you could use my words against me, and you'd be absolutely right.
And here's Lindsey Graham just a few years later.
There's nothing unconstitutional about this process. This is a vacancy that's occurred through a tragic loss of a great woman, and we're going to fill that vacancy with another great woman.
And despite J.D. Vance's desire to look to the future, who can forget Trump's refusal to accept 2020's election results?
I said that.
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that.
Thankfully, America's system is pretty resilient and can withstand a lot of these threats. Is it perfect? No. But take it from the son of Soviet immigrants. It could be a whole hell of a lot worse. So anytime we're tempted to reform our democratic system, we should be careful to make sure that everyone, even those who strongly disagree with us, have a voice. At RDI, we care just as much about the process as we do about the outcome. Our primary job isn't to tell you what to eat. It's to make sure that you have a plate, silverware, and probably most importantly, a seat at the table.